welcome back to my channel. In the spirit of the season, I thought now would be a great time to make another apple tree for my miniature horse farm. The fun thing about this tree is that you can actually pick the apples from its branches. To begin, I've selected a thin branch from the curly willow tree that was in our backyard. I've then glued the branch to a circular wooden platform. It's important to note that this wood is not a fresh cutting from the tree. It's a dried branch that I've had saved for a while now. I thought it had lots of personality and would make a perfect tree trunk. It even has a knot in it that looks like a burl. The next step is adding more branches. After doing some drilling, I'm fitting some wire into the holes to serve as a base for additional branches. When I was happy with how they were arranged, I went ahead and glued them in using hot glue. Twisting the two wires together produces a nice strong armature for the branch. I decided this branch was disproportionately long, so I cut it down. I like the little log. I will keep it for the diorama. Next, I added wire to the end of the branch. These are white floral balls that I picked up in a pack at the dollar store. They're the perfect base for full, fluffy tree branches. Alright, onto some sculpting. I normally use cheaper air-dry clay for this portion of the project, but my epoxy sculpt was beginning to dry out, so I'm going to try and use it up. Nothing fancy at first. I just add some clay to the base of the tree and mold it around the wire armature to fill out the branches. A little water helps with smoothing everything out nicely. At this point in the project, I decided to glue my miniature log to the base. I wasn't sure at first, but I like how it turned out. As I'm getting into the details, I try to imagine the trunk of a real tree with ridges, lined bark, and imperfections. I resorted to my go-to medium for artificial dirt. Smoothing some wood filler onto the base imitates the surface texture of soil. While that hardens, I begin painting my snowy tree dark brown. Black or green might be better color choices, but I had the most brown paint, and surprisingly, this takes a lot of paint. It helps to water it down a bit. I think the wood filler makes great dirt once painted brown. I gave the whole trunk a watered down coat of brown also, just to have a uniform base color. The apple tree in our yard has more of a silvery gray trunk than brown, so I went ahead and broke out some light gray paint to do some dry brushing. This is liquid superglue. I've used my home blender to blend up some dried reindeer moss, also sourced from the dollar store, and I'm adhering green fodder to my dirt base. I think it makes pretty decent grass, honestly. I love static grass application, but kids play with my diorama pieces routinely, so I tend to opt for sturdier alternatives. Okay, so let's give this tree some greenery. This is a hanging lotus bush from Hobby Lobby. You can order them online. One bush, if used well, makes one tree. They tend to be pricey, so I like to wait for sales to order them. So I've cut the bush up and sorted it into 3 piles. Small leaves. I think I may batch paint these orange for fall diorama later on. But some will be used on individual apples. Slightly larger leaves, which are very important for finishing touches. And the main stems, which will serve as my branches. Alright, let's begin. It's a simple process of punching a hole, adding hot glue, and inserting the branches. It's imperative to start with the lower branches and work your way up the tree. I'll speed the process up for you because it does take a lot of time. I tend to listen to audiobooks while I work on these trees to pass the time. I listen to science fiction and fantasy most of the time, but do enjoy Christian fiction as well. I'll list some of my favorite books in the description box. The weight from all the branches and hot glue really starts to add up. The tree begins to feel more and more substantial, and I don't know why, but I love how heavy it is in the end. The uppermost greenery can't be poking straight out towards the sky, so I try to angle the leaves downward as I punch my holes. This is where the single large leaves come into the picture. They're perfect for finishing touches on the top of the tree and using as fillers in the occasional bare spot. Now that the tree is all finished, I'll show you how I make my apples. They're really easy to shape once you get the hang of the technique. I don't like to spend too much time making them perfect because I plan on making lots of them. Roll clay into a ball, taper one end slightly, and then punch a hole in the top. It's really as simple as that. Next, I'll cut a stretch of floral wire, pinch a hook onto one end, and insert the hook into the apple. Giving it a little twist will keep it from pulling out once the clay dries. After all the apples are dry, I give them a coat of red paint. I added a splash of brown to my paint to calm down the bright red just a little bit. The wire really comes in handy when you're trying not to get paint all over your fingers. When that's dried, I just dab a little yellow onto the shoulders of the apple. Now I'll make the hook. This is how I hang my apples, just like Christmas ornaments on a tree. They're easy to hang and easy to pick. Before we move on, I should mention that spraying the apples with a coat of protective, glossy sealant is a must. Otherwise, the paint will rub off right away. I found an old book bag that I thought had the perfect texture for a little burlap bag. So I cut a couple of pieces, superglued them together inside out, and then folded the little bag right side out. And this is what I got. I think it's pretty cute. I made a simple leather sling for it, then sewed it on. Next, I punched some dots out of this gold confetti with my mechanical pencil. The little dots came out slightly beveled and make the perfect brass hardware for my little apple bag. Next, I got to antiquing the apple bag with a little brown dry pastel and a soft paintbrush. I like the way it turned out, and the kids played with it a lot, so I feel the effort was worth it. The crates and ladder in this scene are props I made for another project using some craft wood and dollhouse nails. The CollectA horse I'm using here is wearing tack from Meadow Studio on Instagram. I couldn't resist using it in my filming because it's so beautiful. As always, I spent some time capturing images of the scene before I let my kids have at it. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next project. Bye.